Hi, my name is May Louie. I am a writer, activist in Toronto, and a general working for nonprofits for most of my life kind of person. Um, I'm a feminist, anti-oppression, anti-colonial, mixed race settler. And I'm talking about Zainab Amadahy's book, Wielding the Force, The Science of Social Justice. And I actually reviewed the book, which is posted on a website called blackcoffeepoet.com. And I was very happy to review the book for Zainab because I have a lot of interest in a lot of the topics that she talked about in the book. And especially as an activist, there's many parts of the book that very much spoke to me in terms of the points she was raising and what she refers to as indigenous knowledge that those of us, with a sort of Western mindset, which is definitely the mindset that I have, having grown up in Canada, even though I come from cultures that are not specifically Western European, but I've definitely internalized this very binary, linear focus that we divide the world up into and understand and explain the world. And in terms of the book, I wanted to highly recommend it and to talk specifically around some of the issues that relate to activism that have just been barely started to talk about in terms of how we behave as activists, and then how we, that there's almost a disconnect between that and how we actually are in our lives. That activism has been fueled very often by anger, through sort of pain and injustice. And while all these things are important, they can't be sustainable for the whole of both our lives as activists as well as actually changing the world. We can't just be fighting against what is unjust. We also must fight for and create what kind of world do we actually want to live in. So that's part of Zainab's book that addresses that. The other part that I actually found fairly challenging about the book myself is different notions of how we understand the natural world, and there was and our relation to it. And I even speak in these very sort of separate language in terms of how that happens, because that's how I continue to conceptualize it, and that's sort of a struggle for me. But talking about things like the placebo effect, which is something that she goes into in detail in the book, about how, and people know sort of what that means, is that you're kind of given nothing, but you think that it works, and then it works, and that's been dismissed in popular science and in mainstream science as not mattering. Whereas, in fact, the power of our brains and our minds to change how our bodies actually feel when we think that we're getting, let's say, a pill or something that will treat us, or some kind of medical operation that's going to help us. And she mentions a few examples and a few studies that was quite fascinating to me in terms of the effects, and that to dismiss that is in fact to dismiss an entire very significant way of how we understand, both what we call science as well as how our bodies are, how our biology is, and just what are the ways that we've actually been tricked into thinking that there is such a thing as objectivity, that there's such a thing as all these other ways that science is in this very binary, linear sort of way, and thinking of it more as sort of interconnected and interlinked. So there's many things about the book that I can say. The other piece we can think about is in terms of community, and how we work together in community, not just again as activists sort of for this cause, but how do we take care of each other? How do we sort of imagine sort of living together in relationships with each other through work or activism, or however we do that, in a way that isn't hierarchical and linear and all those other ways that we're taught, that our society has in fact greatly damaged many of us. So please check out the book. It's great, Wielding the Force, The Science of Social Justice.